And good evening. Welcome to the first episode of the 2024 year of the Odyssey Files. I am your host, as always, Michael O'Neill, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. David Sovereign. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mike. Good evening to all of our fans, and Happy New Year. It's exciting. 2023 sucked, so 2024 got to be better. I'm excited for 2023 didn't suck. It kind of sucked. So for me anyway. So 2024, I'm optimistic about this year, at least having some like bright moments of accomplishment and like good fortune. There wasn't a whole lot of good fortune for me personally in 2023.
So far, because by this time last year, I think I had already seen at least a couple people be like, this year sucks, bring on 24. And they'd already given up on the 2023 season or year.
Yeah.
I have not seen a single one so far this year, even though it is January 7th. So that's a good sign.
It is a good sign.
I have already, I don't make New Year's resolutions.
No, I don't either.
No, nobody sticks to them anyways, or at least
nope.
they will right up until maybe the beginning of March, and then they're out the door.
It's just a catalyst for personal disappointment. I get where they originated from, and I get the whole concept of, let's make this a better year, and we'll chart out a game plan. That shit never works, man.
No, in fact, I got to be like really good, I guess, acquaintances, wouldn't really call them friends, at LA Fitness, where I was a member before I got my current job. And they even told me, they see a huge boost at the beginning of the year. And then in
January, February, March, and then
right, it falls down because everybody makes that New Year's resolution to get into shape and to get a gym membership. And they go and do it. And then by the end of February, this sucks and I'm done.
Yeah.
Or I've reached as much as I want to right now, even though they didn't hit the goal. And they're done. They're done with working out. And I
lost my 3 pounds of the 150 that I set a goal to lose this year. I'm 3 pounds closer. I'm going to take a break for the month of March and April and May. Check me in June. I'll be back in June. Then I'll have to lose 160 instead of 150.
No, they never return.
Hell no, you never reach it because people set unrealistic goals. Set some reasonable goals, right? Be happier in your life. That's an achievable goal. You can find things to do to make yourself happier. The whole I'm going to reform my body into the dude who plays Reacher, that ain't going to happen. Don't set that goal. You ain't never going to look like that. That's a genetic predisposition. I'm sorry. But that you can argue that all you want to. That is predisposition genetically. Is he look like that if he wasn't in the gym? No. But could you look like that by going to the gym? No.
You could, but you would literally have to redo your entire life.
Yeah, you couldn't. Every human body doesn't respond to physical activity the same. I found that out. I used to work out religiously, and I was never ripped. I was strong as hell, and I had definition, but I was never ripped. And that's just how it is. It's just my body's it's just predisposed to. I'm always going to have some baby fat. That's just life. I live with it, man.
Well, now
keeps me warm in the winter.
Now that's the thing.
What, baby fat?
Yeah, women like that baby fat.
Hey, now, that's good. Maybe I should get back into dating.
That's up to you. I'm not going to say yes or no in support of that or not.
I've taken some time off. I haven't been interested. I've got other things going on that I've been focusing on in life. So, although I did get a thing from Facebook, and just as a side note here, quick, I did get a thing from Facebook saying, "Hey, you know what? We've got a dating app now."
Oh yeah,
on Facebook. Yeah. It just got that right after the new year, and I'm like, "Well, why would you send that to me? Is that like some? I don't understand."
Maybe your profile says single.
I think it says divorced.
Oh, well,
we could say single. Maybe it's. I don't know if it says divorced or single. To be honest, one of the two though.
Well, maybe they have a new over 100 section.
That would be sweet, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get on like the extreme Golden Bachelor.
Extreme.
Right?
I think
like Jerry at 71, I'm going to sneak right past him like by 30 years and be on there. Like, I don't know what women they're bringing to the show, but God, please don't let it be 100-year-old women because they just got to be bitter as hell.
I would think that when they finally decide to come up with Ancient Bachelor, you're going to be their number one person.
I'm in. That's a given.
You or Scott, one of the two.
Yeah. Well, maybe me and Scott. Maybe we'll go head to head.
It'll be a competition.
It'll be a competition to see which one of us gets chosen.
Oh, Lord. God, no.
Hey, by the way, I just wanted to point this out quick.
Okay.
And for our fans, you got to excuse us, but we're both pretty big football fans. And so you might hear a little football talk here with it being the playoffs. But the other day when we were watching the Ravens game together and Clowney was doing his money dance because he got his sack. And I'm like, yep, there's 50 grand, and we were talking about that when he was doing his little dance on the field. It was my mistake. It was $750,000 bonus that he got for getting that sack, not $50,000.
Oh yeah, it was a huge amount of money. I remember that. Yeah.
No, well, I thought when they said it, I heard the 50,000. I didn't hear the 700 before the 50. And I'm like, oh, he's doing the $50,000 sack dance. He got an extra 50K bonus money or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, that's cool. You get one sack, you get 50K. No, he got $750,000 for that sack. So congratulations to him. That's a hell of a Christmas bonus or New Year's bonus or whatever the hell you want to call it.
That guy is going to get the Griswold pool.
Oh, he's definitely getting the Griswold pool. Yeah, no doubt about it. And he doesn't have to wait for his bonus to show up from his boss.
His jelly of the month or whatever.
His jelly of the month club. Yeah. No, he's safe. He ain't getting a jelly of the month club.
All righty. Well, we have a great show starting out the new year.
Yep.
We have a bunch of things on tap that we are in the process of setting up. Just need to get some confirmations, but
we got some great guests coming up.
Yes,
and some great topics already that we've kind of thrown back and forth at each other. So, I mean, it's going to be an exciting year. We're going to hit a lot of topics for the first time this year,
which is surprising after 289 shows.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes it's as people can assume, right? 289 shows. Sometimes it's difficult to come up with fresh material, but tonight's a good point of being able to do that because tonight's show we haven't done before. And then we've got a couple shows I know that we talked about coming up that we also have never discussed before. So I'm excited. 2024 is going to be good. We're going to have some interesting topics, going to have some great guests.
And speaking of tonight's topic, past life regression, we were hoping that Cena would be able to come on and talk with us about it, but she had previous family engagement she had to do, and I didn't even ask her until like yesterday morning. So whoops. But we will add that to the 700 topics we already have on the list to
for this season. Yeah, we'll bring her on somewhere down the road here and get the experts' perspective of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Did you just say experts' perspective? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I did. Sorry. Snafu.
Ugh, I can't even look at you.
All right, I'm checking out. See you later. The Bills-Dolphins game's about to start. It's going to be like the, groin pull. I better go in and get that x-rayed in the locker room. Get off the field.
See everybody next week.
Exactly.
So, but this is a little different because
not only
are we going to share with everybody, a lot of interesting facts and stuff about past life regressions, but this afternoon, so you can't get much fresher.
Nope.
I actually went through one. So I'm going to be talking about that. And
I'm excited to hear about it because I didn't want to ask you anything about it until kind of live on the show.
I will just say this for anybody who is like, do I want to, when you're biting your nails, wondering if you want to listen, to the second half of the show. It was different than what I was expecting.
Hmm.
So
I imagine it probably was. I'm excited to hear about it. So,
all right. So, but first,
we've got some great listener email though.
We've been off for 2 weeks, so we have we need to get caught up on
The Odyssey Files is proud to present the Mailbag.
That's going to maybe that's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to try and come up with seamless ways of throwing out the mailbag opening.
Gotcha.
So far, I'm 1 for 1. I think that was pretty good.
It was pretty good. Yep.
All right, here we go. First letter of the 2024 year. So number 1, something latched onto me when we moved into our new home. Hi, guys. So some years ago, my sister and I decided to move into a large old house that we had found for a ridiculously cheap price. We were so excited about the amount of space that it offered that we didn't even think to ask any questions. Like, for example, why was it so cheap? Well, my oldest son and I went there for our first night in early spring, and it was very cold as we found out that the heat hadn't been switched on yet. Because of the cold, we decided to sleep in the attic. My son slept in what was going to be his room, and I in the landing. That night, I had one of the worst nightmares of my life. One of those where you pray for it to end until you are back in reality and fully awake. I pushed it from my mind as best I could, and we proceeded to move in. A short time after we moved in, I started experiencing sleep apnea. I've never had it in my life, but I put it down to me getting older and putting on weight. It was quite a horrifying experience, constantly fearing that one of these apnea episodes would literally kill me. But I plowed on, went to work, and did lots of work around the house. Here's where things took a turn. I began having these extremely vivid dreams where I would endlessly regurgitate, love that word.
Yeah, that's a good word for 2024. Regurgitate, word of the week.
A light-colored, grainy, pulpy substance. It would go on and on and on until I'd finally wake up. These dreams kept on happening, and I thought they must be symbolic somehow. Maybe I wasn't content with the new situation or the new job or something. I eventually found out that the previous owner had hung himself in the attic, in the very spot where my son and I had decided to spend our first night. I still didn't make any connection, as I considered myself a down-to-earth, level-headed woman. It was only after moving out of the house, when suddenly both the sleep apnea and the nightmares stopped, that I started to think that maybe this poor man's soul latched onto me in the hopes of what I do not know. I don't think I helped him move on, and now reflecting back on it, that makes me sad. I wonder if either of you have dealt with a case like this before, and if you have any insight you could share. Thanks. Yes and no. Have I had any cases like that? I've had cases where nightmares have been a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
in suicide cases.
Right. And I mean, or just maybe traumatic deaths. I mean, just nightmares in general. But yes, definitely suicide cases.
Mm-hmm.
But that hasn't been it. Like, this just seems to be the only thing going on, is you're having these nightmares and these physical reactions to it. And so I don't think the spirit of this guy like latched onto you as you think. I don't think it was any sort of personal attack. I think what was going on is you were being physically affected by the energy that it left. And that you were just kind of soaping that up. Sorry, I was distracted there for a moment. but yeah, I think that's pretty much all that's going on, especially when you left that house and you got out of that energy, that you were able to have it stop. So I don't think that you were like attacked by anybody or that this spirit was trying to connect with you. I think you were just physically affected by everything that was going on there. And that's it. I think that if you were still in that house, my suggestion would be, and this is for anybody else that may be experiencing it, sage, calm the energy down, try to get it to where it's kind of just not affecting you. And I think that this is one of those situations where sage actually would help, because you're not necessarily getting rid of a spirit. You're just calming or getting rid of the energy that was left behind. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you on this. I don't think that the man who hung himself is there. And I don't think he's reaching out to her to help him move on. What I think is happening is, I think the same thing as you think, is that the energy in the house is so intense from the action of the suicide that she's having a physical reaction to the energy in the house. Now, that's not saying we all feel energy, whether most people just dismiss it, or they refuse to accept it because they don't believe in the paranormal. But I think that everybody has the potential to feel energy. I think that she's feeling it and she doesn't understand what it is, because this could very well be the first time that she's ever had anything like this happen to her. I'm assuming that she's not a young woman anymore. She's got a growing son. She's talking about getting older, sleep apnea, putting on weight, blah, blah, blah. So I think that it's a physical reaction from her standpoint, reacting to the energy of the act of the suicide taking place. That said, good for her that they moved out. I mean, if she was having a hard time adjusting or being able to handle the energy, then she would have been miserable staying there. Like, it just wouldn't have been a positive experience for her. So I think in this case, the best thing you could do, especially because that, and I guess if I found a place and nobody disclosed to me that there had been a suicide in it, and then I stayed there and found out there was a suicide in it, it wouldn't bother me. And if the energy was really bad in the house, I mean, there's ways, like you said, there's ways to get rid of it. But for the uninitiated, for somebody, just a common layman who really doesn't know a lot about the paranormal or doesn't really want to get involved in the paranormal, they just don't like the situation, I think the best thing she could do is move, and that's what she did. And I think that that's probably the best move here, is for her to move on and find someplace else, find a new place. It sounds like things have gotten better, which is good. I'm glad. And as far as being sad that you couldn't help him move on, I would totally throw that out of your head. You're not a psychic medium that moves on spirits that are in pain or trapped. So don't worry about it. Right? It'll get sorted out. However it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. That's just the way all of life works. Whatever's supposed to happen is gonna happen. So eventually, the residual energy in that house will somehow get cleaned, or it'll just dissipate from time. One of the two. Not to say that there couldn't be some residual leftovers, but it won't be as strong as what it sounds like it is right now. So the fact that you moved out, I think, is great. The fact that you're sad, I wouldn't worry about it. You don't need to be sad. There's a reason the guy took his life. That was his personal reason. We shouldn't be making judgments on other people's decisions.
Right. Yeah. 100% agree. And, a lot of the dreams that she had and a lot of the physical reactions that she had, go for what had probably happened before he committed suicide.
Oh, I'm
You know,
sure he was not happy, right? There was probably a lot of pain or anguish or something going on before he took his life. So,
well, I mean, especially with the sleep apnea and then the like the vom, the regurgitation
right,
of all of this,
certain
it that
physical
just
manifestation of what he was experiencing.
yeah. And I just
Yeah,
think that he probably had some sort of illness or
yeah,
disease,
sounds like it.
cancer, something
Yep,
like that, and
yep,
finally got to the point where he was like, "I'm not waiting for death to take me. I'm not doing this anymore." And
right. Tired of
you
being
know,
in pain. I'm tired of living like this. This is not living.
yeah,
This is time to just move on, man.
exactly. And uh, honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. So I
No.
mean, but again, this lady just happened to be the next person to move in and
Right.
kind of just got
While it was
slammed
still fresh. Yeah.
with all of this
Right.
energy and stuff. But let me just say before we move on
Yeah.
that I can't tell you how many times I have seen like uh, a re-dramatization story
Yeah.
that started off with, it was a beautiful house and it was unexpectedly cheap.
dirt cheap. First
Yeah,
thing I laughed at when I read this story, when I chose it today, I'm like, and it was a great house and the square footage was beautiful and it was dirt cheap. And I was just like, well, I don't care. It's too good a deal to pass up. That's because it was too good a deal to pass up. That's why you passed it. That's why everybody before you passed it up.
and it, for anybody who's listening, if they're going to do a house searching here in the next couple of years, I mean, if you find a very nice but very cheap home, you might want to ask why.
Or get off your ass and do some research yourself. It's pretty easy to do research these days. I mean, with the internet, it's not very difficult to type in the address and pull up and see if there was any crime committed or any tragic murders in the house or suicides. You can always go to the courthouse and you can do a property search. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
Well,
Oh, that was awesome. Sorry.
well, you know as well as I do that they use Google when they type in, their address or whatever. They're going to get flashlight ads for Temu.
Oh, absolutely. And Raquel Welch's birthday party celebration and
the Rose Parade photos. Yeah. I mean, it's
and Donkey Kong Lego, the Lego house for Donkey Kong. That's it. All that shit's going to show up. And then about 96 things down, you're going to get, and on October 27th, 2 years ago, at this address, this incident happened. Yeah.
So just
it
be
does.
prepared.
I make fun of it all the time because it's just, Mike has been with me. There are times when I type in exactly what I'm looking for and I get absolutely nothing that I asked for. It's absolutely amazing. So,
all right, moving
on. So number 2, we're moving into a house where a previous owner, we're like a house theme tonight. We're moving into a house where a previous owner died of an accident on the property. So here's my question, guys. We are moving into an old farmhouse where the previous owner's wife died tragically on the land. The seller disclosed this info from the get-go to us, so there's no issues there. The issue is I believe in ghosts, energy, etc., and my husband does not. Moving on, this house also borders a cemetery, which is beautiful, and I guess I don't really mind that about the property. I guess what I want is to go in as open-minded and respectful as possible, but also make sure I understand what we're getting into energetically. I lived in a haunted duplex for a large part of my childhood, things like unexplained crying, footsteps, lights turning on and off, toys going off, even a handprint on a window once. And I hated it and don't want that for us. We also have a 1-year-old daughter, and I do think children tend to have a greater impact on spirits. So what would you guys do before moving in, starting remodeling work? Anything? Lots of sage? Maybe I'm just overthinking it. What do you think? Personally, I think you're overthinking it. I think that you are doing the proverbial cart before the horse. You're moving into a place. Absolutely nothing has happened. There's been absolutely no issues whatsoever. You've been to the property at least once to view it. probably more than once. Usually, if you're going to buy a place, you drive by it a couple times. You get out, walk around the neighborhood. You actually get the tour of the house, obviously, have a home inspection done, whatever. So nothing has happened. You didn't say like, well, we were there and we saw stuff moving in the yard, or we were in the house and things like started happening, or I got touched, or my husband got shoved down some stairs. My daughter was freaking out. I mean, nothing has happened yet. I grew up right next to a cemetery too. For me, that's a bonus because there's a ton of green space and it's quiet. Right. So that has nothing. I don't think that has anything to do with the house. Could there be energy coming from the cemetery that could come to the property? Sure. Could it happen? Absolutely. Is it something to be worried about? No. There's ways to deal with that. So anyway, I think that you are overreacting. I certainly would not be saging the shit out of the place the second you move in, because you have absolutely no idea if there's anything there whatsoever, or if there is or isn't. You don't want to go in and have a couple of potentially like previous homeowners that are just there because they love the house and then piss them off when they had no intention whatsoever to mess with you. They just didn't want to leave because they love the place. And then you go in there and upset them. And now you've got your hands full because they're not going anywhere because it was their house before it was yours. And they're upset because of your actions. And now you've got your hands full with a pissed off spirit that you caused in that example. The thing that I would do if it were me, if you're going to do a major remodel, I would sit down and have an open conversation. And I know I'm sure people think this is strange when they hear me say it. I would have an open conversation out loud with the house, because you can't see the spirits that are there. You don't see the energy that's there. I would just have a conversation with the house and be like, look, this is a beautiful house. And it was great in 1952 or 1946 or 1970 or whatever, but it's 2024 now, sorry. And we would like to update the kitchen to fit our needs better. And we're going to do some work here and do some work here. So I'm just letting you guys know we're going to do some work. I hope that you're happy with it when we're done, and we're going to, whatever. Say what, and then say whatever else you want to say. I think that is the respectful thing to do. And my guess would be that would alleviate a lot of potential ticky-tack kind of issues with just going in there and being like, well, it's my house, F you, and having that attitude and ripping down walls and ripping out this and ripping out that, when somebody's life was, spent their whole life there and created all their memories there. And if they still happen to be there. So that's the only advice I have for you. Other than that, I think you're looking for a situation. You're looking for an issue when there's no issue to be found, in my opinion, from the information we have. I'll put that in there as a disclaimer. So,
I agree. When I read this, my first reaction was you're overthinking it. The basic fact that even the owner was like, hey, my wife, or the former homeowner or whatever, passed away.
Wife. Yep.
His wife, passed away here, 10 years ago or whatever. I'm just letting you know, so you don't think I'm holding anything back. That right there should tell you nothing is going on.
Right.
Because he's just telling you this.
Right. Just being totally upfront.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. I mean, not a lot of people will do that because they think they're going to scare you away.
Right.
So just the fact that he would do that should tell you that, that you're probably fine. And again, because you believe in ghosts and you believe in spirits, you have the mindset, probably because you watch the shows, that death in the house automatically equals haunting. And that's not the case. It's not even close to being the case.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely think that you're psyching yourself out, that you are putting ideas into your head that have no basis in reality yet. Now, obviously, if you move in and all of a sudden you see an old lady like glaring at you or things start flying at your head, yeah, then you might want to, think again about a course of action.
Right.
But until that time, just enjoy your house.
Right.
100% agree with Dave on, if for whatever reason you are worried, or you are thinking that there might be a former homeowner there, or the wife is still there, or somebody who still loves the house as much as you, have that conversation.
Mhm.
Let them know what you're doing. Let them know it's not because you don't love the house.
Right.
Let them know you're just trying to modernize. You're trying to make it look better.
Right.
And that, just show them the respect that, that they have pretty much earned by keeping that house going as long as they did. So, I mean, things that happened in your childhood have no bearing here.
No.
I do think, or if the only bearing is, it's made you paranoid. You were letting your past experiences manipulate and change the way that you see your future. And like bad relationships, you shouldn't do that. There's nothing wrong with this house. Don't make something wrong with it. Don't manifest a spirit because you're so certain that one is there.
And you got to remember too, and I totally agree with you, because paranormal PTSD is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get talked about a lot, but it is a real thing for people who had real experiences as a child. It definitely, I guarantee you, it affects your life as you grow up. But on the flip side of this too, you got to remember, if you go to a place and you've had experiences like that, but you still fall in love with the place, chances are good the energy in there is good. Otherwise, you would have that feeling of, something just doesn't feel right here. Something's a little off, right? It feels a little icky, feels a little thick. I feel like whatever. Like you just have that, like your spidey senses that start tingling, telling you that something's not quite right. Obviously, she didn't have that feeling. She walked in there and loves the place, and they're buying it. So, I will say this: that for the child, I get your concern with having a 1-year-old, and you are right. It's a fact. Children are more open to spirits. Is there a potential that your child growing up could potentially draw some wandering spirits from the cemetery? Sure. Could it happen? Sure. Is it anything to be worried about? No.
I'm glad you brought that up.
It'd just be a visit, right? It's not like a haunting. It's a visit. There's a total world of difference there.
Very much so. I'm glad you brought that, because I was going to bring that up as well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you.
No, not at all. I completely spaced on the fact that I was going to bring up that little section there about the cemetery. Like you, like my high school years, my house was right next to a cemetery. Like it was my backyard, fence, cemetery.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like it was, 100 yards away from my house. Like I looked out my back window and I was 40 feet from the nearest tombstone. I mean, it was right there.
Yeah.
And the entire time I lived there, which was like 4 or 5 years, nothing, not a single paranormal incident, experience, weird sound, nothing. So the fact that there's a cemetery there, again, no bearing unless you make it an issue.
Right.
Especially if it's a beautiful and well kept cemetery.
Absolutely.
You will be just fine.
I think the active cemetery, a lot of the active cemeteries are some of the older ones that maybe don't get the love and the care that they need anymore, or they're abandoned. Like I've been to some abandoned cemeteries that are ripe with activity. And I think that the reason that they are is just because the people that are buried there, when they come back to visit their spot, all of a sudden they're like, man, this place looks like shit. Why doesn't anybody care anymore? And it, legitimately right. I mean, like I I paid to be buried here. I paid to have this tombstone here. Why in the hell does this look like? Why does this look like this now? You know, it's disrespectful. So I agree with you. If it's a well-tended, active cemetery where people are going and like my grandma used to do, and I used to, like my grandpa passed away, right? I would take her to the cemetery and we'd go sit there at grandpa's gravestone for hours and talk to him. In that place, there were people all over that cemetery doing that. It wasn't the cemetery that was right by my house. It was down the road a little ways, but you know, like they were all really well taken care of. You know, they weren't abandoned old places. We've been to a few abandoned old places. They got a vibe to them. Totally different subject, though.
Yes. All right. With that said, moving on to number 3. Why am I the only one the spirit bothers? So, I lived in my apartment building for about 5 years now with my fiance and his son. The building is old, originally built in the 1920s. What I cannot explain is why I, the only female in the house, am the only person who experiences anything paranormal. My fiance works midnights, so I'm home with just my stepson at night. The activity has only occurred in our bedroom. I will feel someone come and sit down on the bed and start to pet my hair. And trust me, I am not sleeping, as it happened far too many times over the past 5 years. I've heard things rattling in our closet, whispering in my ear to wake me up, stuff like that. On top of that, my 2 cats go freaking bonkers in our bedroom, completely spazzing out, hissing at the closet or in the direction of our bed, staring at a single corner of the room for overly long periods of time. I recently stayed at my mom's house for a little over a month to help her get back on her feet after a serious surgery, and I had no paranormal experiences, none whatsoever. It's only in the bedroom at my apartment. So my question for you guys is this: is it normal for a spirit to be more forthcoming to a specific person? Why is this spirit only, quote unquote, bothering me? Because you're the only one that's interested in. I mean, that's the long and the short of it.
Yep.
I mean, you're the one in the bedroom by yourself because your fiance is working. It has no interest in any other part of the house. And I honestly don't even know if it really has specific interest in you, any more so than you are a female in that bedroom. Like if you put maybe one of your best girlfriends in that room, they might have the exact same experiences. I don't think it's tethered towards you specifically, as more as you are in the right place at the right time, and maybe the right gender for it. I mean, you could be looking at an old former homeowner, somebody else that lived in that apartment that maybe died in the building. Maybe he had a granddaughter that looked just like you. And I mean, it doesn't seem to be that anything that is going on has a malicious intent, which I like the fact that you're saying it's bothering you as opposed to it's scaring the crap out of you or it's trying to kill you or anything like that. I think all you really have to do is tell it to stop. If you haven't done so already. Because I mean, that wasn't part of it. Like, hey, I asked it to stop and it continued to do it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you, I don't want to say if you have the balls, but I mean, if you have the gumption or the bravery to stand up for yourself and just be like, look, I know you're here. I know what you're doing. I don't like it. Please stop. Or we're going to have to, unfortunately, remove you from this place because this is my place now. If that doesn't stop it, time to call in a paranormal team. Time to call in a psychic medium, somebody who is going to be able to reach out to this entity on your, and I use entity very lightly, just spirit, ghost, whatever, and just let them know what the deal is. And if they break it or they misbehave or they continue to do it, out the door they go. So, I mean, you have a lot of options here. I mean, but I just don't, I think if it's intelligent, which it seems to be I honestly just think talking to it and telling it to leave you alone is the best way of doing it. If not, there are definitely a plethora of other options that you can take to get this to end.
Okay, so I kind of read this as a loving type of thing, more so than a scary, aggressive type of thing. Kind of like along the same lines as you. So, feeling somebody come in the room and sit down at the side of the bed and start to kind of, you use the term pet your hair. I understand what you're saying. I don't know, pet my hair is the best way of saying it. But somebody just like brushing your hair lightly or just giving you a loving stroke, like just like your grandma would do or your grandpa would do, probably more so your grandma, but could be grandpa. You're not feeling good. Let's say you're sick, right? Your grandma's coming in, making sure you're okay. She brings in like a washcloth, cool you down. You got fever. She like rubs her hands through your hair just to kind of soothe you, make you feel better. That's the kind of thing that I feel is happening here. It's definitely tied to the house or the apartment. That's why when you went to your mom's place to help her out, you didn't experience anything, because it's not tied to you at all. It's whatever this entity is, whoever this entity is, it's tied to the location specific. So you got two options. You can do exactly what Mike said. You can just say, look, I appreciate the fact that you're here, and I appreciate the fact that you've been kind, and I appreciate the fact that that you have expressed these kind of loving, caring moments with me, but I don't understand it, and it's making me uncomfortable. And I just got to ask you to please stop. I just don't understand what's happening here, and I don't feel good about it happening. And I'm sorry that that's how I feel, but that's just how I feel, and it should stop. And if it doesn't, it's tied to this location. Find a new apartment. Right? It's just an apartment. It's not a house. It's not like you're cash poor. It's not like you sunk your entire 401k and every penny you ever owned into the down payment on this house, and now now you're trapped and you got no place to go. It's an apartment. There's a billion apartments out there. If it's bothering you that bad and it's really negatively affecting your life, move. Because this entity is tied to this specific location. So, I mean, I would try talking to it first. If that doesn't happen, if nothing, and I doubt that that's not going to fix it. I highly doubt that you're not going to get a positive response out of having a polite, respectful conversation with whoever this is. I think that's going to alleviate all of the problems. But if it doesn't, or if things turn, it's tied to the apartment. So get a new apartment.
But Dave, I bet the rent is ridiculously cheap.
Well, there's a reason why it is. You're right. If the going rate for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in your neighborhood is $1,000 and you're paying, and you got this place for $400, you got to make a personal decision. Am I okay with somebody coming and sitting on the bed and brushing my hair every once in a while to save $600 a month? Or am I going to pay the same rent everybody else in the neighborhood's paying and not have somebody brush my hair and sit on the edge of the bed? I mean, that's the decision you got to make, and that's just a life decision, man. Welcome to life.
Welcome to Adulting 101.
Exactly. Welcome to adulthood. That's just the decision you're going to have to make. What can you put up with in order to save a few dollars? So, people have to make that decision every day of their lives as adults. So, I honestly, though, I don't think this is a malicious entity at all. I think to me, it sounds more like a grandparent, like tending to a sick person. And it very well could have been that, like you said, maybe somebody passed away there that was sick, and it's just more of like a residual type of thing, but there's enough energy there that she's actually experiencing it as a kind of a soft actual haunting. You know what I mean? I don't really think this is like a haunting. Like, to me, this is not a haunting, right? This is a experience and a very mild one at that. But I get the concern. Again, somebody who's not into paranormal, somebody who, right, if this is fresh, this is something you're young, it's fresh, it's new to you, you've never been involved in the paranormal, the only experience you have with the paranormal is the shit that you watch on TV, then I get it. Because in your mind, this is a demon. And it's going to ruin your life. And it's going to destroy your family. And it's going to kill your kid. And your kid's going to become possessed. And it's going to be the son of the devil. And, whatever. I get it. Because that's exactly what TV portrays. Everything is evil. And everything is going to F your life up. And it's never going to be okay again. Ever. But we're talking about TV versus the real world. And this is the real world. And this entity is not out to harm you. It's not looking to do any damage to you. It just sees you as somebody that it cares about for some reason. So, like Mike said, could be you resemble a loved one. So, anything else for that?
Nope. Moving on.
for the demon. Number 4, I had to get the demon out. It's 2024, so we're got to get it out at least once. What my mother said in the weeks leading up to her death scared us. A few years back, my mom died after a long battle with cancer. She had been bedridden at home for quite some time and on heavy pain medication. The whole family took turns helping and spending time with her. It's what she told us towards the end that caused chills to run down our spines. She was repeatedly having a scared reaction to something. She'd jump and say, "Oh God," or she'd let a swear word fly in response to this thing scaring her. It finally became a regular thing, and we would hear her say it daily. "I wish he'd stop scaring me. Tell him to go away." She was annoyed at something or someone, to be exact. Confused, we asked her what the problem was, and she explained what was happening as best she could. Apparently, in her last few weeks, she kept seeing her deceased ex-partner walking around the house. He'd walk down the hallway, or he'd walk past her bedroom door, or sometimes he'd be sitting in her room. And every time it happened, she'd jump with fright, obviously not expecting to see him there. She was more annoyed than scared, I think. She'd see him several times a day, just going about his business as if he had never died and was there. Our first thought was that it was something to do with the pain medication she was receiving, but the nurse assured us that her current meds wouldn't cause hallucinations or visions. It scared the bloody hell out of us. I know that much. She went into a hospice a few weeks later, and as far as we know, the vision stopped. So my question for you guys is, why was she being visited by her dead ex at home, but not at hospice? It's a good question. I'm going to venture to say that she probably was still being visited at hospice. But for some reason, her not being in her house anymore, like her being at a facility where she went to die, and not being her space, because we get possessive about our stuff. Her ex was probably still popping in and out. Maybe not as frequently, but it was still probably popping in and out. But it wasn't her house, so it didn't affect her as much. Or, as we die, things become less important, towards the end, the last couple of weeks that you're going to be on the planet Earth. Your body's shutting down, right? You're dying of cancer. Your body is gradually losing the fight. It's shutting down. And so those things, I don't think, cause you to be as jumpy anymore. I think and I'm just speculating here, is my best guess. I think that the reason she was as jumpy as she was when she was at home is because she felt like she needed to protect you guys as the matriarch of the family, and that she didn't like the fact that somebody was there without her okay. And so she was annoyed, probably angry, and probably temporarily frightened, right? Jump fright type of thing, like any of us do, right? Like if you walk around the corner in an investigation and you walk around the corner and there's a face sticking out of a bookcase, we jump back. And that just happens. We're human beings. Is it scary? Yeah, For a second. Is it frightening for a second? Is it like something that you're going to run out of the building because of? No. So I think that that's probably what was happening, is that she was, moms are like the dads are defenders of the house. Like, we're the ones who are going to protect physically. Moms are the ones who are going to protect emotionally. So I think that she felt maybe that she didn't have the ability to protect anymore. And while her ex was there, maybe she didn't like it. Now, why her ex was there, I'm going to assume that this is a classic example of that was who was going to transition her, would be my guess, if he was there that frequently. He was there because he was waiting for her to pass. And as soon as she passed, he was going to be the one to transition her. Along with maybe somebody else, who knows, but he was certainly going to be part of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been there. Why would he have been there? So that's my take on it. I'm sure you got something totally different than that.
I do, actually.
I know you do, because I went a totally different direction. I didn't think you were going to go. So,
well, thank you. I honestly think that he was never there to begin with. I think as well as I do that as people start to pass away and they start, getting into that thing, the veil thins and they start becoming more sensitive to energy. They start being able to see, spirits and ghosts and all this stuff. And I mean, if you read it like verbatim, read it as a literal thing, he never interacted with her whatsoever.
No.
And, it's not like he sat in the chair and he was like, I'm going to take you. She's like, what the hell you are, like they never
conversed with her in any way, shape, or form. Right.
Exactly. So he didn't do anything that would lead you to believe that it was an intelligent spirit whatsoever. And I think that she was seeing different things that he did in his life. He would walk down the hallway. He would do this. He would sit in the room and read a book or, whatever. And so when she moved, obviously the residual energy of him isn't there.
Right.
And so she's not going to experience him. Because I think that she still would have been pissed off or bothered if he had shown up constantly at the thing. I don't know if he would have been the transitioner, because he never really seemed to be wanted.
That's not true. Just because you're an ex doesn't mean like that you did. Obviously you loved that person deeply at some point.
Well, right. But
it's over now, but there was a moment when it was important for them to be together in life.
Well, right. No, I get that wholeheartedly. But if they still had that kind of relationship to the point where he would be the one to show up without anybody else, I don't think she would have been like, why is he here? Get him out of here. Well,
I get you. Yep.
So, I mean, I just think that she was probably experiencing a residual of him, things doing around the house. And as soon as she went to hospice, she was no longer in that house and she no longer saw him. Again, so sorry for your loss, even though I know you said it was a couple of years ago, but still. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that one.
Well, you got two sides of the coin there, man.
Yes, you do.
We were totally different on that one.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to go to break, intermission. When we come back, we'll do the fifth story because I kind of want to do that one.
Okay.
And then
I know you do. I gave that to you.
And then we will go straight into our main topic. So
because number 5 is a transition. It's a segue story.
Nice.
So,
all righty. We'll see you guys on the other side.
This is Susan Slaughter from Paranormal Caught on Camera, introducing you to the most epic show ever, The Odyssey Files with David Soyering and Michael O'Neill. You're welcome. Pew, 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 pew.
Hey, this is Grant Wilson from Ghost Hunters, and if you ever have time that you never want to get back, spend it listening to Mike and Dave on the Odyssey Files.
This is Heather Taddy of Paranormal State and Alien Highway. I can't say that the Odyssey Files are out of this world, but Mike and Dave are quite abductable.
Hey, this is Dustin Perry from Ghost Hunters, and you're listening to Dave and Mike on the Odyssey Files. It's not the best show you're ever going to listen to, but it's also probably not the worst.
This is Michelle Belanger, author of The Dictionary of Demons. What is faster than a speeding shadow person and more fun than an anal probe? It's Mike and Dave of the Odyssey Files. Hold on to your hats and buns.
This is Elizabeth Saint. You know, in my journeys, I've confronted an over 1,000-year-old demon from the depths of Shepherdstown. But then, you know what happened? I came across Mike and Dave. And hot damn, nothing could have prepared me for the Odyssey Files. My second favorite radio show. I love you guys.
Oh, and we are back.
God, I miss Elizabeth being on.
I do.
Hope 2024, we need to make a concerted effort to have Elizabeth back on because she's been on the show multiple times. If you're a fan of the show, you know that. And she's just a great, very, very intelligent young lady, woman. Very smart and very well versed in what she does. And, just a joy to have on the show. And that episode in particular, when she did that voiceover for her, she wasn't feeling good and she was all wigged out on some cough medicine. And that episode was just, she's like, I don't know, man, I've been like really sick and but I'm here for you guys, you know. And I took a bunch of coughs for the show, though. Is that okay? That's fine. Don't worry about it. And that show is just a class. Man, if you have not listened to that, it's a classic.
It is. It's a good episode. All right. So we need to get done with this because we have a topic to get to.
Yeah, I know we do. And this store question that I gave you leads right into it, kind of.
Pretty much.
You're welcome.
All right. Number 5. As we all know, ghosts scare people frequently. But is it possible for a human to scare ghosts? Here's the reason I'm asking. Since the age of 14, I've had intermittent ghost sightings or creepy things happen. At age 23, I met my boyfriend, and I've only had one terrifying ghost encounter after meeting him. He was sleeping in the same room at the time of the sighting, but didn't wake up. For some background, we were both forced to grow up Catholic, but each of us has pretty much always been agnostic. I'm the type of person who must see it to believe it. And well, I guess presences sense that. However, he often makes fun of the paranormal or simply laughs it off, and he has never, ever witnessed anything paranormal visually. When he is around, I feel safe from spirits, like he puts up some kind of ghost block. Seeing how he is not religious, is it normal for an average Joe to have these types of blocking abilities? Oh, where to start? Okay. Warm the hands. First of all, you seem to be making the assumption that only religious people have paranormal encounters. That's so not true. So there's no such thing as like an average Joe, having abilities of blocking ghosts. There really is nobody who has the ability to block ghosts. Now, with that said, there are definitely people who have a energy about them that either ghosts or spirits don't want to interact with, don't care for, or yes, you can intimidate them. That's kind of where I am. I kind of in the intimidation category where my energy is a little off-putting, not because I intentionally do it, but it basically how it's been explained to me. And as Dave said, it kind of leads into our main
topic.
our topic tonight. They can, spirits who are on the other side, or whether they're ghosts, whether they're spirits, they can sense who you were. Like they can see your soul, your energy. So if you had a past life, as I supposedly have, where I hunted down spirits and demons and anybody on that side of the curtain without prejudice, they see that. And so they're going to avoid it, not trusting the fact that it's not my intention anymore. So you're looking at it, this can be looked at from all different, just tons of different ways. Your boyfriend could simply just have the energy of, don't come around here. I don't want you around here. I don't even care about you. I know, like Steve DeShavi from the Dead Files. I mean, it's always been this joke of,
Right.
if any spirit ever followed him home, and tried to mess with them while he was like, he would just be like, get the F out of here. I don't have time for you.
Right.
And he would roll over and go back to sleep. And that could definitely be your boyfriend. He just does not care about the paranormal. It has nothing to do with religion, has nothing to do with you being brought up Catholic. It's just about energy and what you put out, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So it's perfectly fine to feel safe in your boyfriend's presence, because you probably are. Not saying that you were ever not safe, but if you don't want any paranormal experiences, in your boyfriend's company is probably the best place for you to be. I used to say that to my investigators all the time. If you don't want to have any experiences, you can come with me, because we'll just go and talk to the dark and not experience a damn thing. I'm happy to say that that's no longer the case. That it's kind of turned around for the better, which was one of my goals. So yeah, there's a lot of things that could be going on, but chances are your boyfriend just has the kind of energy that does not attract spirits in any way at all. Might even repel them for whatever reason. Could be a past life, could just be something that's going on in this life. But either way, you're fine. And I don't necessarily think the ghosts are scared of him. But is it possible for humans to scare ghosts? I guess. I don't know what the context of that situation would be, but I definitely think if you can intimidate them, if you can get them riled up, if you can do all sorts of things to get a reaction out of them, in some way or another, scared is got to be something that you can do. But that's all I got.
I concur.
Is that your whole? That's it. Back to you.
I mean, the only thing I would add to that is it possible to scare ghosts? And I'm not even going to touch on the context of the thing because I think you did a good job. Is it possible to scare ghosts? If you take that verbatim as ghosts and you separate and you categorize it, is it possible to scare a ghost? A ghost is nothing more than somebody that was a human being. Do human beings get intimidated or made to feel uncomfortable where they don't want to be around certain individuals? Absolutely, we do. So what would be different? What would be different now? Nothing. So if your boyfriend, and I say this in a way of your boyfriend might not be a nice guy. If your boyfriend scared ghosts, he might intimidate people in real life. If he's that type of individual, then would he potentially intimidate spirits? Right? Potentially, yeah. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, reading that verbatim, right? True ghosts. Is he going to intimidate a dark spirit, a shadow person, a demon, a dark entity, some interdimensional dweller? No, he's not. But could he potentially have, like you said, the energy to intimidate or be off-putting to a former human being? Yeah, I could see that happening. Absolutely. So that's all I got. Let's move on to the topic because I'm excited to get to it.
All right. So I think before we get into my experience, let's talk a little bit of what it is.
Kind of past life regression in general.
Yeah, because I found this. I found this lady who, this isn't the person who obviously did it. Cena was the one that helped me with it. But I while doing some research on just the topic in general, I came across somebody who was writing down like different reasons that people would have past life regressions, and stuff like that. And so a past life regression, just in general, and I don't know if this is necessarily. See, this would be a question for Cena, because I think in you too, Dave,
what
you thought that what was going to happen had to do with hypnosis, and
well, you do get, well, you're supposed to get hypnotized in order to get yourself to a state where you can have a past life regression. So it's part of it, yes.
Well, right. And so they considered a gentle form of hypnotherapy that allows
you're still under, though.
Right. Yeah. You're in a light trance.
Yeah.
When you do it, and it allows you to access memories in the back of your mind of your former lives.
Mm-hmm.
If obviously you believe in reincarnation. Now, obviously, if you don't, there's no memories to have or to go back and look for. But so past life regression, just a list of things that they can help you with. So reconnect with past life experiences. Yes. Help you understand why you feel a deep connection with certain places. And we have a lot of people that have written in or stories that we have done of people who, and just in general, not so much that it's just written in here, of people who don't understand why places and things and topics interest them so much.
Yeah, agreed.
I this has nothing to do with what happened today, but I found it absolutely odd as shit that what was it, 8th grade? 8th grade, I went into life sciences, which is pretty much geology, rocks.
Yeah.
And I knew everything like instantly. Like I comprehended everything like at all without an issue. Like I didn't even have to study, because I could read it once and be like, yep, I know exactly what they're talking about. Yep. It still baffles me today. How did that? I never looked into that crap, up until 8th grade, and I haven't looked at it since. But for whatever reason, I was even student of the month when that teacher got when that teacher got the chance to pick a student. She picked me because I knew it for whatever reason. See, this was interesting. Explore your past life and current soulmate experiences. So, I mean, a lot of people, at least I did, your soulmate was obviously the person you were supposed to be with in this life. Mm-hmm. But apparently it's the person you're supposed to be in every life. They're supposed to be with in every life.
Yeah.
Identified physical ailments that you have, which may be remnants of past life experiences. Interesting.
Okay. Now I got to interject something here.
Sure.
Because as we've talked about before, and we've had individuals on that are well-versed in topics and stuff concerning this nature, not maybe necessarily specifically past life regression, but what you just said. And I am also of the mindset that I do believe in rebirth, but I don't believe that we carry anything forward. I believe that it's a clean slate. So in that respect, what you just said to me doesn't make sense, because I shouldn't be able to carry forth any type of pain or memory or whatever else word you want to choose out of that, in a rebirth type of moment. But, and here's a segue for a future show, I could see having that happen in a parallel life experience. And there's a future show as parallel lives. So,
and the funny thing is I'm interested in the fact that you brought that up, because I didn't even know that type of thing existed until this afternoon.
Yeah, parallel lives is kind of it kind of falls in under that kind of regression therapy like you did today.
And just for anybody who like me had no idea that such a thing even existed, apparently you can literally be living two lives at the same time.
Multiple. It doesn't have to be two. It'd be in any number of, but right, more than one.
But is unbelievable to me.
Which is mind blowing. But in that respect,
really
you could share. I know it gets deep here, but you could you could unintentionally share that pain that your other self is experiencing in your existence here, which I think is bullshit. but can it happen? Yeah, you know me. Everything can happen. There's no limit to what the hell is and is not possible. Everything can happen. So so could it happen? Yes, in a parallel life. As far as a rebirth type of life, I don't know that we pull stuff with us. I don't think we do. I think that it's a clean slate, and that because it would suck. I'm just saying, like, just from a personal perspective, it would suck if you were reborn and you only pulled the pain or shit with you, but you didn't pull like your greatest abilities and assets and intuitions, and like none of the good shit came with you. It was just the negative stuff. That would be absolutely a slap in the face from the universe. So
I think from now on, anytime like I'm at work or I'm at home or whatever, and something just starts to ache, like your knee just starts to ache or something,
it just starts to hurt for no reason.
I'm just going to be like, come on, other me, get your shit together.
Exactly. I can feel that. Stop effing around, whatever you're doing. Just start talking to yourself out loud.
All right. So, I mean, explore unresolved emotions which have carried through into this lifetime, creating fears or beliefs which you have been unable to explain. Now, that one I think is prominent in a lot of people.
I think so too.
And acknowledge and embrace the key lessons learned through those lives. See, there it is again. There's the lessons.
Right.
And the more research we do that gets into like the deeper meaning of life and energy and stuff, the more I see that word, lessons. And just, so, I mean, when I first heard, Casina was the first person that I had ever met who had started talking about lessons. Never heard it before her. And I thought she was crazy. Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like, what? But I mean, now it's getting to the point where I'm seeing it more and more and more. And people are having, talking about, experiences they've had about going to this hall to find their lessons and, stuff like that. And it's fascinating to me. Apparently my number one lesson, the thing is patience. I don't know why
I don't know where the hell that would come from.
I don't know either.
Totally, that's out of left field for you. Can't even believe it.
I think that my soul for this lifetime was like trying to pick the, PE. That like they're trying to go for the easy A. and so yeah, so they picked the easy lesson. So I've got that in abundance. I don't know what you people are talking about.
I don't know what the hell's going on. You guys are all crazy.
Exactly. So this year, it started, I don't know, a week ago, whatever it was. I decided that I was going to try and develop my ability to use my energy. It was of the, I've been told for years, my energy is very strong, and not off-putting, but noticeable. And that if I had a grip on it, like if I had control of it, I would literally be able to use my own energy to blow a spirit out of a house. Like if I needed to clear it, like I could just boom and use my energy and cast it out of a house or a location. But I don't have control of my energy. and it's been on my to-do list, but 2024, and this is what I told him, I go 2024 is my year. And I want to be able to develop that ability. I want to be able to not to use it. I mean, not to go in and be like, you're gone, but in case it was needed, I would have it.
Yeah, back pocket type of thing.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry.
Right.
If I had to protect one of a member of my team, if I had to protect a client, if I had whatever, I could do it.
Right.
And so she suggested that we do a past life regression, which I was like, fine, because I've always wanted to do it. I mean, I've talked about the whole Van Helsing, thing on the show all the time. In my past life, I was pretty much the literal incarnation of him or whatever, from the movies and stuff. And since then, I've learned, I guess I was a sorcerer, I was a warlock. Apparently I'm just all kinds of effed up when it comes to magic and spiritualism. Apparently the paranormal is just where I'm supposed to be. But the goal of the past life regression today was to bring me back to a life where all of my abilities were active and in use. So claircognizant, clairaudient, clairomniscience, and then there's one more I'm forgetting. But sight, smell, all this other stuff. And so, like you, I had expectations. Like I had things I thought was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you and Cena both talked about the fact that you really have to trust.
Oh, absolutely.
The person. You have to let go.
You have to let go, right?
Yeah. And for whatever reason, like in Patience, you guys thought that I wasn't going to be able to do that.
No. I didn't say that. I said it was going to be difficult for you. I didn't think it was going to happen, in fairness.
Right.
I said you were going to struggle with that. And as obviously a longtime friend of yours, that's an accurate assessment of you, that you were going to struggle with that. I didn't say it was impossible, in my defense. I just knew that it was going to be potentially an issue for you.
Right. So yesterday afternoon and last night and even this morning, I prepared myself to try and be like, okay, gotta go in, I gotta let go. I gotta relax, I gotta do this, getting myself in the mindset that this is what I needed to do.
Right.
And come to find out that's not how Cena does it at all.
Well, interesting.
So, and this is why I really wanted her on the show, because I'd be like, why don't you explain how you do it? and we still
future episode.
Future episode where she's gonna talk about. So basically, what she tries to do is, instead of putting you into a light trance state so you can go back, she leads you through a visualization. Like she sets she it's almost like what you would do, like you're in a field and you're in a hallway and stuff like that. But then it's more of how you feel. For me, it was weird because as she was setting the scenes of leading me towards this lifetime, I kept having to like pick movies, like movie scenes. Like she started off with talking about how I'm in a field, the sun's on my face. And there's like a wheat field and my hands are kind of, going right away. I pictured, Gladiator, him walking through the fields of Elysium, or whatever.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the thing that I had. And then she started talking about a hill and climbing that and turning around, looking to feet. But then she went to like a hallway. Well, first it was a forest. And so I pictured the fire forest from The Princess Bride. But I mean, then there was a hallway of doors, and each of those doors is a different one of your lifetimes.
Well, that's like the Matrix happening right there.
That's exactly what I pictured. I pictured the white
hallway within the Matrix,
with all the doors. But see, then I had to, instead of leading me to a certain door, it was, what door are you pulled towards?
Yeah.
And I even was asking my spirit guides, because she had mentioned them, about them helping me. I'm like, all right, spirit guides, what am I supposed to choose? And I just felt nothing. I felt no pull. I was visualizing this hallway, and finally, because she even asked me, she's like, what door are you pulled towards? I'm like, I'm not. And so she tried to just narrow it down to a door, just picture a door instead of the hallway of doors. And still, I'm like, I don't feel any pull towards this. And we finally got into a door, but it was weird for me because I'm like, I'm not fighting it. It's not like I'm like, I don't believe this or whatever. I'm like, I'm trying to feel this pull and I'm just not. But we got into it, and it was like this. It was almost like it was a day in the life of a former me. It's what this was. And we got into this whole scenario of it pretty much to me was the Salem witch trials. And some girls were on trial because they had been accused of witchcraft. They had been convicted, obviously, and they were going to be sentenced to whatever death they were going to have. And, I was there to witness the trial, and it was like, how do you feel about this? What do you do? Where do you go? And I had to come up with the answers about, how do you feel about this? And I'm like,
well, let me ask you this. So
sure.
Was she trying to have your current self answer that question, or was she trying to go to yourself as the witness and re-experience what your decision was at that time?
It was what she tries to do, and what she does do, I guess, is you live that person's life over again. Like you are that person.
Yeah, you relive it, re-experience it, whatever, right?
You relive it. So the goal was for me to experience it and make the decisions that I would have back then. And that was one of the things that I brought up at the end is I'm not sure which one was it, because all of these feelings and stuff like that are feelings that I would have now, as my current self.
Right.
And
that's where the confusion sets in.
Exactly. And I told her, I go, I don't know what's me
Right.
and what could be a past memory.
Right.
Um,
Normal response. Yeah.
Exactly. She did tell me, she was like, you don't really lose who you are over these lifetimes. So the logical person that you are now and the way you respond to this now would be the way that you would respond back then. And
now that I find interesting only in the fact that the context of you having the freedoms that you do now in our current world that we live in would have been substantially different had you been a witness at the Salem witch trials. And if you'd have spoken out while somebody was being burned at the stake, you put yourself at the liability of being labeled a heretic and a witch, and then potentially being the next one to go on the fire stake. Whereas today, it would just be your opinion. That's how it would be viewed by society. It would just be your opinion of what happened back then. So two totally different ramifications in what you in that context of what you just said.
100% agree. And that was a big thing about it as well, because it wasn't so much did you speak out, it was how do you feel about what just happened. It was more of my feelings at that time as opposed to what I did.
Okay.
So
well, I'm interested. What did you feel when you were back and you witnessed these young women being accused of witchcraft and then being punished for the crime? Like, what were your feelings back then? Do you want to share those, or are they personal?
Sure. Oh no, absolutely. Because she asked me, she's like, okay, she's like, these women just got things. She's like, everybody leaves and you're just sitting there by yourself. How do you feel? And, I said flat out, I'm like, I feel anger, like these women have been unjustly accused of
and murdered.
Murdered. I said, I feel anger. I feel, I think one of the things that I had said a little bit after that, I said, I feel determined. Like it took me a while to figure it out. Like I was silent for probably a good minute trying to figure out exactly how I felt about that. And I finally came up with determination to do something about it. So after that, I went to apparently I have a coven at that time. It's not mine, but I'm part of one.
Okay.
Part of one. So the whole coven gets together. I explain the situation, that I want to help. And apparently the elders, and she asked me, she's like, how do the elders or how does the council react? And I'm like, they reject me. They reject my offer. They don't want to help. They don't want to stick their necks out for these innocent girls.
That's what they'd be doing. Yeah.
Right. And to expose themselves, because then they too would be
persecuted. Yeah.
Persecuted. Exactly.
Yep.
And, so the next question was, how do you feel about that? And I'm just, angry. I'm mad that they're being cowards, that they don't want to help. They don't want to do what's right. They don't want to right the wrongs.
Right.
And so she's like, okay, what do you do next? And I'm just, and I'm going through these motions of, I'm talking to my friends in the council, or not the council, but in the coven to try to see, who will help. And, she's like, okay, well, what's the outcome of that? And I was like, some of them, they want to help the same as me. And she's like, okay, what's your plan? And I'm like, well, I'd like to put like a truth spell on the girls that lied and get them to tell the truth, that they just accused these women because they didn't like them or whatever, that they were lying about. Hoping
and that in reality, I think that was part of it, was like a jealousy type of thing, or I'll just leave it with jealousy, right? Like you're either prettier than me, or you're more popular than me. My dad is important, your dad isn't.
Yeah.
It's the Mean Girl, they're remaking the movie for 2024, right?
Yeah.
Mean Girls. That just kind of pops into my head, right? Is that you've got this type of mentality where if you're not looked upon as the number one most important thing, and you target somebody who's in your path that you think is obscuring you from being that, then you victimize that person. And I
Of course.
think even way back in the day that obviously that same emotional type of and wrong mentality was prevalent, and that some of the witch trials were some of the young ladies were a victim of that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think for the most part, I think that there are probably several instances of my husband, looked at you longingly. You obviously put a love
Correct.
spell on him and
Right.
are a witch.
Right.
Because there's no way that he would look at you instead of me.
Right. Exactly.
So
Perfect
yeah,
example of what I just was kind of relating. Yep.
It's absolutely 100% jealousy. And you got something that I don't, therefore I'm going to take away your life.
Yeah, I'm going to take something from you, and then it just turns out to be the ultimate take.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just from there, it's just one of those. Where do you meet?
Right.
And I was like, we meet in in a dark forest, in the dark section of the forest, so nobody can see. And how many show up? And I saw two, but did I create two, or were there actually two of the many that I talked to that showed up? What were their jobs? And like, back up. Like, I guess, and it was this scenario of how did I put the spell on them? Did it work? How did you act afterwards? And one of the things that I did not realize is apparently, because the goal of this was obviously to, like I said earlier, to go back to a time where all of these abilities were active and in use, right, but to pull them forward.
Right.
So that when I'm done with this, I have them all with me. And now I need to, as Cena put it, modernize it. Right. I need to bring them up to speed, so to speak, in the new age. And I did not know this until right before we started. Apparently, people can put blocks on you so that you can't take abilities into future lives. And I found that very interesting. This was something I didn't know about. And to make a long story a little shorter, when we were done, apparently what had happened was the council found out what I had done. Because to me, what I told her I thought had happened is the girls told the truth. My spell had worked. The girls told the truth and it made no difference. That the women that were accused were still put to death because it was more of an example to everybody.
Well, it would have been a sign of weakness for the leaders of the village or the township, community, whatever. It would have been a sign of weakness for them to backtrack, especially because witchcraft was the fucking hot topic. Sorry for the F-bomb.
Well, right.
But it was the hot topic word of the day. So how do you backtrack once you've let that come out of your mouth? How do you backtrack from that and save face? And they didn't know how to do it. So there was no going back.
Right.
That wasn't going to happen.
Well, so the Coven Council, found out what I had done. And apparently they were the ones that blocked any of my abilities from being moved on.
Makes sense. So you were a warlock, but obviously not of the same level abilities that the council was. And so you kind of, and I could see this in you, you took it upon yourself, as I would, You saw wrongdoing. You took it upon yourself to fix the situation. You tried to go the right path first. Nobody, or the people who I won't say nobody, the people who mattered, the decision makers, didn't get on board with what you said, even though it was the logical move to make. And so you were like, well, F you. And you went ahead and moved forward with your goals anyway, which is exactly what I would have done. And then A for effort, right? But it didn't work out. But I can totally see where then the individuals that were of a higher ranking, a higher ability, higher powers, whatever, however you want to phrase it, were upset with the fact that you kind of went rogue and then revoked or blocked or whatever some of your abilities so that you weren't a threat to them down the road.
It was a punishment for,
It was to make sure that you didn't put them in harm's way.
Well, that I couldn't get in any more trouble.
Right.
Whether
you weren't going to be the catalyst for them getting in trouble.
Right.
That's why you would be punished like that.
Yeah.
So
apparently I was very powerful, but not an elder. Because the elders were the ones that got to be on the council, and
it would be somebody who was kind of lineage born into witchcraft versus somebody who studied and practiced and then became good at it.
Yeah, I don't know which one
would be the difference. So you probably were like somebody who studied, learned, became good at it versus somebody who was lineage of it. Kind of like if you look at the vampire culture, right, as like the blood lineage of a vampire versus somebody who was turned. Somebody who was turned could have great ideas and could be a great asset to the vampire community, but they're never a pureblood. Whereas the purebloods are the ones who are making the decision ultimately because they think they're greater than thou.
Well, if that would have been my scenario, obviously Blade would have, been my been my visualization.
Right.
But
right, that would have been your visualization, but you weren't going in for vampirism, you were going in for witchcraft and Van Helsing. So my question for you is, how did you go from a warlock with abilities into Van Helsing?
I think Van Helsing actually came first.
Oh, okay.
Because if this was in fact the Salem days, I mean, that was what, 1700s, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say the number 1628 keeps popping into my head as we're talking. I have no idea why. As a matter of fact, I need to look it up because
well, I think
I don't know why in the hell 1628 is like just not. I mean, I'm looking and I'm seeing it as I'm looking at the monitor.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answer for that.
I don't either. So,
but either way, I think the whole Von Helsing one was like Middle Ages.
It was Middle Ages. Yeah.
So yeah, Von Helsing actually came first.
Right. That would make sense.
So, but yeah, well, her and I will do it again. It was funny because she was doing stuff, because I was laying on her table, with my eyes closed and, kind of just hands on the stomach, listening to her. But I could tell that she was moving around the table and that she was doing like hand things over me. And then there was one time where she had a hand on my chest and a hand on my stomach, and it just laid there. And she mentioned it after we were done. She said that when she first put her hands on me, she's like, it was to see if I was letting her in, like I was being open.
Right. Or if you had your kind of shield up. Yep.
She said I was stone. She said my entire body was stone.
I believe it.
And I'm like, that's not intentional, because
no, that's it's just your natural guard coming out. But
there was nothing to me. And I told her this as well. There was no trust issue here. Like, I didn't get put into it. She was just leading me through that. There was nothing trustworthy about it.
No, right, because you weren't put under in such a way that you'd be manipulated, and I would trust Cena as you would. I'm speaking for you here, but I mean, I think we would both trust Cena in that respect.
Well,
I certainly wouldn't trust just anybody doing something like that, but I think we both certainly would trust Cena doing it.
At the end, though, towards the end or whatever, she said it became like I want to say like a clear gelatin or something like that. Like I would finally was letting her in, and I'm just like, that wasn't a conscious thought.
No.
There was at no point in time during that entire thing where I was just like, yeah, she's crazy. I don't want to let her in. Like this needs to, like, there was nothing about that. I was trying very hard to visualize and get these answers. And the only thing that confused me about it, and I've already said this, is I don't know what was a potential past memory of this lifetime and what was something I created in my imagination.
All right, so I'm going to share this with you because I'm not sure that this is directed at me or you, but I'm going to say 90-10. It's directed towards you, and for some reason I meant to give it to you. 1628 symbolism shows that it would be wise to create realistic strategies and tactics to achieve professional and personal growth towards your goals. And the angel number 1628 says that you are a lot more talented than you think, and you should use your talent to control the shots.
Interesting.
So, and I'm telling you, 1628, as you were talking, it didn't come from me. It came through me for you. It's not for me. It was like literally popping up on the screen and stuff. So, and of all the shit about 1628, like that is, for whatever reason, those are the two things that I was drawn to. So take it as you will. I don't know why. It's whatever my guides, whatever speaking through me as we're talking. But I think that was meant for you.
It would seem so, because that's kind of what's going on.
Right. I mean, I'm not even trying to interpolate it. I'm just giving it to you. I'm just giving it to you raw, just because it's,
that's our show, Dave. We're raw.
we are kind of raw. I mean, we're not scripted in any way, shape, or form. That's for certain. If you've watched all the episodes or any of the episodes, you certainly know that. There is no practice going on ahead of time. We're just like, this is what we got for you, and we're going to give you the best we got every time we go out. And sometimes it's going to be a home run, and sometimes it's going to be a ground out, and that's just life.
I have it written down.
Whatever the reason I'm supposed to share that with you is, I just wanted to share it with you. So
okay, all right, I appreciate it, because I got it written down, and I'll look at that myself, because a lot of times I don't go for the whole like messages and stuff like that for other people, but I think I can get behind that one.
It's kind of odd that it goes hand in hand with what you're talking about, and I certainly did not. And I say this on my father's grave. I certainly did not look up 1628 prior to the show to see if it correlated in any way, shape, or form with Mike's experiences with what he had happening in his life today. So it's not like there's any collusion here. It was overwhelming. And the funny thing is, now that I've said it, now I have absolutely no interest in 1628 whatsoever. So now that I've shared it, it's done. It's a moment. It was meant to be shared. It's over. I couldn't care less about 1628. So, all
right, there you go. That's another sign.
Yeah, that is another sign.
So, all right. So, one of the things.
So I got to ask you, because this is something that we talked about that I felt was important. And because you didn't go under kind of a hypnosis state, maybe it's not as important. But did Cena establish with you any type of like safe word or any type of safe space, generation. And I don't mean generation in terms of life. I mean generation in like terms of manipulating something, where you, like, if for some reason something starts to go ape shit, like we talked about, do you have a space you can go to and just be like, time out. Apples, I'm done.
Way to use the word that I used, apples. So,
well, you shouldn't have admitted that.
well, it's not actually a safe word. It was to play on the show Castle.
I know. But you shared it with me yesterday. I threw it out there as a joke, not as that you'd actually use that as your safe word.
I know. That's why I thought it was hilarious that she still used that. So, I talked to her before we even started because I wanted to. At the time, I thought that the whole, going into a light trance or whatever was the way it was going to work.
Yeah, I assume that too, right?
And so I wanted to address what you had brought up because I hadn't before, and that was, we're kind of going from 0 to 60 here, like having like a little bit of clear cognizance,
right?
Enough to be useful, but like not to where I can be like, there's the answer,
right?
And so how is this going to affect me? How, isn't it going to be overwhelming to all of a sudden have all of these abilities activated,
open, right?
Open and activated. And her response was, not until you are ready. So even though they're there, if I'm not ready to process them, they go dormant until I am.
That is amazing, because one of the things that I was going to talk about tonight was, and as I was researching past life regression and just kind of, I know enough about it to be dangerous prior to us deciding to make it a topic, but I did a ton of research to kind of just solidify what I thought I knew, and then kind of learn some new stuff. And one of the things that was in there that I wanted to talk about tonight was the fact that your subconscious will not allow anything to come forward that is going to harm you. Mm-hmm. So it's putting so your own mind, and we're doing the show in 2024.
The mind show?
We're doing the mind show, and it's going to be more than one episode. So just prepare for it. So we've been talking about it now for like 2 freaking years. So anyway, it's amazing that the human mind, like that your subconscious would make the decision that, yeah, we have this ability. Yes, I can give this to you. I can share this with you, but I don't want to hurt you or put you in harm's way or jeopardize your health or jeopardize your mental stability. And so I'm not going to share it with you today. I'm going to wait until we progress a little farther, and then potentially I'll open it up for you. How complex is the human mind to make that decision for you?
You're asking the wrong guy.
No. Right. I'm throwing that out there for our listeners. I didn't expect you to answer that. I'm just saying, how complex is the human mind that it safeguards you and won't allow you to hurt yourself?
Well, I mean,
right? It knows what you want, and it's like, I'd love to give it to you today,
but you're not ready.
But I also don't want to hurt you, and I don't want you to be hurt, and I don't want you to put yourself in harm's way or to jeopardize your existence. And so I'll give it to you, but I'm just not going to give it to you today. Right? I'm just not going to share it with you quite yet. It's there. It's there whenever you want it. You just got to show me that you have the ability to handle it once I open up that door for you.
Yeah.
And that is incredible.
If
you really take a second to think about that your mind actually protects you in that respect.
And it kind of gets my question of, well, what if I want it? Like, what if I go into a case or something like that where I want the clairaudient, and it's like, no, you're not ready for that, and I'm like, then I'm in a fight with myself.
No, you'd be frustrated.
Well, of course, I'd be frustrated.
Right, you'd be frustrated, but I don't think you'd be in a fight with yourself. I think as you evolve as a human being, you would understand that it's there for me. It's just not there for me today.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to keep you from getting the answers you want. That's the other beauty part of it. It might be the easy path to get the answer you want. Right? Like, it's the simple path. So maybe it's yourself telling yourself you got to dig a little deeper and make some effort. I got the answer for you, but you just got to try a little harder.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and it challenges you a little bit, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, and I'm not done. Obviously with everything. Now it comes, because apparently it was successful. Like she was able to cut the bonds and the blocks and the cords from all of that life, and I was able to come forward with these abilities intact. And I told her when we were done, I'm like, I don't feel any different. Like, I don't feel like I have extra abilities. I don't feel like I know anything more now than I did before. And she's like, you won't.
I was going to say, what would you think you'd feel? What do you think you'd feel? Physically different, or a little mentally sharper? Or, I mean, like, what do you think would be how would you, like, I guess moving forward, how would you personally think like that doorway was open for you? What do you think would happen that would make you understand or feel that door was open for you?
I thought if everything was successful, and again, this was the disconnect between what I was expecting and what actually happened, was different. Not bad different. It was just different.
Right, just different. Right? There's nothing negative happening here at all. This is all personal growth. There's nothing bad going on.
I thought that I would feel more in tune, like with energy. Like I would feel it a little more than I did previously. You know that I always say I'm as sensitive as a brick.
As a brick, yeah.
And even though that's never been the case, but
it's just your way of phrasing it. That's all.
It's funny to say, and so I thought that I would feel a little more of what was going on around me.
Kind of like a reawakening, in a respect.
Well, apparently that's what we're in. We're in a reawakening or an awakening, but
of course we are.
Of course we are.
Jupiter's not in retrograde anymore, so therefore we're all living the blissful life.
Yeah, when I was setting this up with Sina, I said she's not allowed to say retrograde around me.
Yeah, no retrograde. Can't say retrograde anymore. It's a banned term on the Odyssey files. No more retrograde. It's like the F-bomb. Can't say retrograde.
Yeah. Synchronicities.
Synchronicity is another one. You can't say synchronicity.
High strangeness and retrograde.
Yeah.
Those are banned terms.
Well, the only high strangeness that I've ever even came out of anywhere was out of
Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch. That's the only time I ever heard that term.
Right. And that's the only
synchronicity came back from the whole Kentucky thing, the documentary thing that we watched.
Hellier.
Yeah, Hellier. Yeah. And I had heard it prior to that too, but they used it more than anybody else I'd ever heard use it. So they overused the term. Everything was about synchronicity,
Yes,
so although very interesting, it's still a very interesting documentary. If you've never seen it, go check it out. It's very interesting. If you're a fan of the paranormal.
I don't even know if it's available anymore.
I don't know if it is or not either. I mean, I'm just saying, if you've never seen it before and you're interested in the paranormal, it's interesting. So,
right. So, I guess all in all,
not promoting anybody.
Right.
wait a second, if I was going to promote somebody, I'd be promoting, there's other individuals I would promote prior to that. And you know that, so.
Yes. There's a couple things. Well, we don't really have a lot of time. I really wanted to get into this.
We got 3 minutes. Jump into it real quick. Let's hit it.
Well, I was just
Hit
saying,
one of them.
I found another thing. This is 12 things you should know about past life regression. So, I mean, obviously the first one was past life regression therapy uses hypnosis.
Yeah, which it does to a respect.
To a respect. Right. Can everyone be regressed? No.
No.
It's not for everyone. Same as the paranormal. Not everyone can be an investigator.
Nope.
So this was interesting. It was break the linear mindset.
I saw that too.
Yeah, so we're probably on the same site. But many grew up to believe that, life is a straightforward timeline. Right. And always moving forward and learning as we go. And this is part of this is true, but not entirely though. And they're talking about how obviously not believing that is the first step in the right direction. I really like this one. Not every problem is about a past life.
and that's common sense to me.
Yes, I agree.
Because everybody can't point the finger at their own shortcomings and say, well, if I hadn't have been such an ass early in my other lifetime. No, you can't do that. Right. You shouldn't have been an ass in this lifetime, and then you wouldn't have the issues that you're having.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I say that in a very general term. So don't take offense to that.
You may not have even been human.
I saw that too.
And
I like that one. When you look down at your body and you realize that you're not a human being, don't freak out. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm a golfer.
Well, it wasn't even that. She's like, it
would be an alien. You're not on Earth. Yeah.
However, some have found themselves in past lives looking down at their body to not be human and not even on Earth.
Yeah. Could be, right? Or you could be a bear, or you could be a tree.
Well, that's Buddha right there. I mean, that's
right.
Buddhism.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly Buddhism, right? I mean, like you're reborn constantly. So, and you're not always coming back as a human being. So, I mean, you could be a butterfly, you could be a moth, you could be a tree, you could be a rock.
I really liked the fact it said, sorry, she was probably your mother many times before.
I saw that too.
and I make fun of that all the time because, you've been like, yeah, we've been brothers in a bunch of other lifetimes. And they're like, yeah, we've been this and we've been, and,
we have been told by numerous individuals that you and I have some sort of past life relationship.
Yeah. Apparently, like everybody in my life, I've had, even Cena, apparently I've had past lives, with her involved. And, my joke is that, I mean, obviously I'm a soul that doesn't like variety because they keep bringing back the exact same people over and over again.
Right.
People.
I think the perfect way to end it would be, you may have been famous without being the Queen of England.
Yes.
Right? Is that where you were headed? Because I love that. Absolutely love that, right? So you don't have to be the centerpiece. You don't have to be Abraham Lincoln reborn, but you could have been a friend of Abraham Lincoln, or you could have been a member of his cabinet, or you could have been part of his life somewhere, right? And so him, so you have familiarity with him, but you weren't him.
Right.
And I think that's fascinating. And I agree with that. Right. And same thing like Queen of England. Like you could have been best friends with the Queen of England. You could have been her chambermaid. You could have been whatever, I mean, whatever the case might be, you were around her, but you weren't her.
Yeah. And the whole thing that stems from that is you may have an affinity for a certain person, like Abraham Lincoln, like the Queen.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you were them in a past life. It means you were probably associated with them.
Right. It just means you had a special relationship with them in a past life, something that you cherished, that was strong, that created this bond and created this moment in time that's strong, and it's something you hold on to.
Exactly.
It's still interesting to me as we end this, though, that I just got to say that I love the whole concept of past life regression. I think it's very, very interesting. I also, not my only question, but like one of my biggest questions would be, how is it that we are able to carry forward these weaknesses, pains, issues, when during rebirth, we're not supposed to be able to carry any of that shit forward? It's supposed to be a fresh start. And that's where parallel lives comes into.
Question for Cena.
Right. And question for the show of Parallel Lives.
Yes, very much so.
Which is forthcoming in 2024.
All righty. Well, that does it for us this week. I will keep everyone updated on my journey towards whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Whatever path he's on.
And whatever path I'm on. But we'll be back next week with another new episode. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here.